Welcome back to Inside the Vault, Enterprise Bank's podcast series where we talk about items of interest to the small business community. This is part 2 of our series on Velum fermentation. In part 1, we listened to the journey of Nate and Jenna McLaughlin in terms of getting involved in the brewing industry and how they came to have this project, this new Velum fermentation project in Pittsburgh. In this part, we're going to talk about, now that Velum is open, what the future holds for them and what visitors and patrons to their Southside location can expect. So you actually conceived the idea in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
When did you actually have it ready to, let's say, get off the ground?
That's a tough question to answer. So let's just go through the story of it, right? 2018, over 2019, I kind of got all the business figured out. I got the building figured out. We signed and got the lease started in August of 2019. And with that, we got our building and all the other stuff. We started with our the brewer's notice and all the stuff for making beer. That takes a long time.
Right.
By January 2020, we had all our ducks in a row to start build out. January 2020, my plan was to do a 6-month build out of just the brew house area and a small tap room, start serving while we build the rest of it out. Get money flow, get beers in the tanks. That didn't happen.
And then the world went upside down.
March hit, everything's closed. And there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened over there, mostly COVID related, some other stuff as well. That I think we can get into on another podcast, maybe. Right. But a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of learning. And then May of 2021, we got through with a very needed merger so that we could get the SBA loan through that we needed to finish the project. And then fast forward to April 12th of 2023.
That was your
opening day.
Nice.
Yeah. And obviously there's a lot that happened between there. Everything from, the supply chain breakdown, everything either not being available, being 8 to 20 times more expensive, or taking
8 to 20 times longer.
Yeah.
8 to 20 times longer. So breaking the budget and redoing it and getting more investors and begging and just pleading with people like, we can do this, we got this, and we did. And Jenna came in that. That's when Jenna, Ryan and Jenna moved over, and they joined the project. And Jenna joined the project. Ryan is like, he volunteers his time, right?
Yeah.
And that pays for his off. He has a little office space down in this space, and we kind of joke around that his like the time he volunteers for us labeling beers and stuff is his payment for his office
for his space.
But he just likes, he fries his brain with academia so much. Sometimes it's just nice for him to just do scrubbing,
Or pull beers, talk to people.
Pull beers and
nice
talk
people,
to humans rather than stare at a screen, because he's a bioinformatician, so it's like big data, so a lot of programming. So over COVID, that's when Jenna joined, and we made our little pact and got her in, and we started doing everything. And by everything, I mean a lot of everything. Anything that didn't need to be certified, like cleaning all of the 35,000 square feet ceilings and painting them all on a scissor lift.
Yeah, we painted the ceiling and every wall.
Because we got we got basically almost like a 6-figure quote for painting the walls and painting the ceiling. And we're like, we can't do that. So we went on Amazon and we got 2 spray painters for $400 a piece. We did it.
And
ourselves.
4 or 5 months later.
Yeah. While we were waiting for everything else to build, we were just chugging along. We built our furniture. Almost all of our original furniture we built from steel that tanks were delivered on, and bowling alley wood and other stuff that we scrapped from Construction Junction. which is a nonprofit here that does recycling of building materials, which is killer. It's really good. We love that place. We get a lot of stuff from there. We have this space, our workshop. It's called the junkyard because we have so much stuff that we upcycle from there. Everything from like
a lot of sweat equity.
Oh yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, I mean, putting a Gumby, like one of those like painter suits on and a mask for 16 hours a day. Whew, my God.
That's dedication.
Anyway, so that's kind of like COVID, and there was a lot of details in there, obviously, of like things we did and things we built that are not in that description, but just like a little smattering of things we did.
We pivoted. We just continuously pivoted and did what we had to do to get to April 12th, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're 3 months in now.
We are.
3 months into the project. So if I walk in there today, Jenna, as a patron, what am I gonna see? What am I gonna find?
Yes.
What kind of fun can I have?
Yeah,
in this
there's lots of
space?
fun.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, so right now we have a 36-seat small tap room. That's where you get your beer. It's like Nate said, we built all the furniture. It's really comfortable, and we have like an art installation in there. We teamed up with our neighbors at the Brew House Association, and it's a nice, comfy little spot, and we call that like kind of like the low energy zone. People come in, they plug in their computers, they do some work while they're drinking a beer, and then out past the Brew House, we have 15,000 square feet of fun zone. Basically, we have tables, and then recently we just installed 2 pickleball courts.
Indoors. That's
Indoor
cool.
pickleball courts. We kept hearing the word pickleball from our customers, and I was like, okay, how do we make this happen?
It's amazing to me. They're repurposing all the tennis courts
I
around
know.
Pittsburgh.
I know,
to
pickleball.
court.
It's crazy. Pickleball is like becoming so big.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to Gamma Sports, and I was like, hey, we have this big space. Let's talk. They came down, and they were like, we've been looking for something like this. We've been wanting to do this. So they put in courts. They come once a month on a Friday and teach people how to play, bring their wares. And then otherwise it's open free play. We have a bocce court because we have so much space. We can build all this stuff indoors. So we have bocce, cornhole. We have free skee ball, 3 ping pong tables, and then outdoor seating. So people come, they, find fun, bring their families, bring their dogs.
Yeah, I mean, we see people doing everything from all the things we offer, which all the games are free play, like Jenna said, to bringing in board games, doing their own games. I mean, we host trivia nights.
Yep, trivia.
Jenna is starting to do a lot more programming with like pretty fun stuff, whether it's like leagues for cornhole or pickleball or trivia nights, or we want to start getting some like live music in there, like small stuff, like not like huge things. But yeah.
So what kind of beers have been introduced since you opened?
Yeah. So I've been, I've only brewed 10 batches so far. So not a ton of brews so far, since we've opened, but, I'm trying to keep everything kind of very approachable and very, very kind of simple right now until I get my my brew house kind of dialed in. Because one of the things I really need as a brewer is I need my base beers to be solid before I start adding. Well, and we do a lot of hats, and we do this a lot actually in conversations and meetings. Is we'll take I'll take my brewer hat off, I'll put my like financial hat on, and be like, well, those ingredients are really expensive, whether it's fruit or hops, especially the juicy, awesome hops. Like, you need to have a good base beer before you waste, thousands of dollars of raw ingredients for something that's not good enough.
Got it.
And so like, I'm really trying to square up my base beers and get all my efficiencies dialed in my brew house. So to answer your question, we started out with 4 beers on tap. That's when we opened. We had a porter, which is our year-round porter. It's about 4% alcohol. It's kind of modeled after Deschutes Black Butte Porter, because I absolutely love that beer. Which is excellent. It's one of those dark beers that when people say I don't like dark beer, they can actually drink it and be like, oh, maybe I do like it. Which is one of those things is one of those things, and it's Ryan. My brother actually takes a huge amount of pleasure in this. Is when someone says, "I don't like beer," or "I don't like this type of beer," and we have that beer on tap. He's like, what if it's free? He's like, what if I give you a free sample? Which people almost always say, oh, okay. Unless they're like gluten intolerant or something like that. They'll say, yeah, okay. And then they sip it, and 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh.
Change their mind.
Okay. This is okay. And sometimes they'll get a different beer, but at least it's like education, right? Which is it's a phenomenal. Someone says they don't like beer. My go-to is a beer actually that we just released. And I promise I'm getting to a whole list of beers that we released while I'm talking about all this stuff. We just released this beer for Pride, and it's on our charity tap right now, which actually a portion of the proceeds go to our charities of choice.
Oh, you have a charity tap.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And we're going to keep that.
Yeah.
We're going to keep that forever and just rotate charities through.
Great idea.
So this month our charities are LGBTQ plus ally associated, basically. So Three Rivers Business Alliance, Equality Center, and then 2 other ones. I don't think. Two of our employees are part of that community, and we wanted them to like offer their opinions on what is beneficial. Where can we donate
What
money?
are they passionate
and
about?
what are they passionate about? And so they actually get to choose 2 of the weeks that
That's
we do
really
this
cool.
one.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a passion fruit sour beer. And it's like as far away from beer as you get. It tastes like a little bit like beer, but mostly like a passion fruit seltzer.
Okay.
Which is perfect for someone that says, "Oh, I don't like beer," and I'm like, do you not like beer? Why don't you try this? Which is just fantastic because they're like, "Oh, I can drink that. I'll have a pint of that."
Right.
So, anyway, we have that. We have the dark beer. We have a wit beer, which I didn't see a lot of wits on tap in Pittsburgh. And so that was one of the ones that I first released.
I agree.
And I wanted to go for something kind of like an Allagash white, but it's not cloudy, this one. I'll probably try and get it hazy in the next batch. But like I said, like I just haven't brewed a lot of batches of beer just because the brew house is so big. Like you just like if you overbrew, then you have product laying around and you don't want that. You want it fresh. But so the wit beer, that's a really nice one, hints of coriander and orange peel and all that kind of good stuff. And then we have a low ABV. Our low ABV series, we call them snack beers. They're session beers, but we like to call them snack beers. We have an IPA that we use a lot of PA hops in, and so it's very earthy. PA hops are young here. It's tough to grow them, and the industry is really young in Pennsylvania. So the hops are pretty earthy, very like spearmint and grassy, which is not none of those are bad things. It's just something like it almost tastes like almost like a yerba mate tea.
It's different.
Okay. Yeah, it's not that big juicy like
tropical.
Which we do have one of those. Turn that thing into a drink, which is a very long name. That's our hazy like deluxe or double IPA. And we use the classic like hazy hops in there, Mosaic and Idaho 7
juicy.
and and then we have
our 100% PA
100%
grown lager.
Yeah, for sure.
So the first lager that Nate brewed was Renstream, and it's 100% PA grown. So all the ingredients come from Pennsylvania. The hops and the malt come from Butler, CNC Malt. And then the yeast is from Philly.
Yeah, Imperial yeast out of Philly. They have a laboratory there. So one thing that like I was saying earlier is trying to be as hyper local as possible.
Right.
It's tough with ingredients because the hop industry is very young in Pennsylvania and around Pittsburgh. Not to say it can't grow, and I have some hop providers that are really in it and love it, and they're looking to plant lots of different types. But right now, there's a lot of like the classic Cascade, Centennial, like very classic, non like Galaxy and all the juicy, right? So, what I'm trying to do is make my beers, the beers I can do, 100% PA. So the lager is a shoe-in. Like obviously it was easy to do because like lagers don't take a lot of hops. My malt provider, CNC Malt, is killer. He took a elementary school, and he turned it into a floor malting facility. And he turns all the malt by hand. It's all floor malted, traditional style, which is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it tastes so good. It has this great, a lot more of a malty flavor. But being able to brew flexibly with my brew house, I can take advantage of that awesome malt flavor and make beers that just taste phenomenal. That you might not be able to like get that flavor, right? So all my beers, all the base malt, which there's like when you're designing a beer, there's base malt, which is the majority of where the sugar comes from for the fermentation. Then all the specialty malts, whereas that's usually no more than 20% of the malt you put in there is specialty malt, and that's where you get a lot of the flavors, like dark malts, sour malts, and all those types of things. And then there's the hops, and then there's yeast. That's basically the ingredients for a beer. Yeah. As long as you're not throwing fruit or anything in there. So 100% of my base malt is from Pennsylvania, and most of my specialty malt. There's still some things I'm R&Ding with the owner of CNC, trying to get it so I can go 100% PA with malt. I'd like to do that by mid 2024. It's a bit more of an investment for the farmers, right? And they're not always a high yield, and so a lot of brewers don't want to pay that premium. But like one of the things that we do, because our scale is a little bit bigger, we can actually get that scale of efficiency where we can purchase hops at in larger batches to make it affordable for us, but then also pay the farmers enough to do the research and the development of growing a hop industry that hasn't been around for centuries, right? Because the hops used to be grown in Pennsylvania and in New York,
right? And
that was a long time ago. But I want it back. Like, come on, I want it back. Also, something we've learned over COVID is having a local supply chain is really, really important. And the only way you have a local supply chain is if you support that.
Yeah, invest in it now.
You have to, right? So, anyway.
Well, me as a beer drinker, as a consumer, that's exciting to me that things can only get better in terms of the quality of the raw ingredients locally sourced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. So where are we headed? Where's Velum headed? What do you guys project for
take over the world?
For the future of the business.
We want to grow organically. We want to grow with our customers and grow with our community. And everyone says that, but like we truly, we want to grow slow. Obviously growth is always important, especially from put the business hat on from like a cash flow perspective and return on investment and all that stuff. But we want to do it right, which usually means slow. So we're not in a huge rush to go regional, So what we want to do is we want to finish out 2023, getting our distro going to key accounts, get our tap room like all squared up, and just have our regular customers and regular events, and make sure our quality is good, and maybe staff up a little bit more for like in 2024, maybe hit the ground running, which actually Mythbusters proved that you can't do that. Into maybe going into the local, like the metropolitan area of Pittsburgh, and hitting a little bit more craft beer cans to maybe Giant Eagle or some of those things. So that's like from a overall like distro perspective, that's kind of where we want to go. Nice regular growth, go dense and evenly rather than here and there. You always need those satellites if you want to like, hey, we want to start distributing to Ligonier or Erie. Yeah. You always need those satellites to get you there first, and then grow organically from there. But the project was so interesting so far. I don't want to overstretch and get us into trouble. So
and right now, running the business wise, it's just Nate and I. And we're still, we do the business part in the morning. We still have to clean the whole building. One of us is always on shift with our employees. So we're there every night until close. We close up, we sleep a little tiny bit, and then we start all over again. So like as far as distro, we had to have hard talks about whether or not we wanted to actually, we needed to pull back a little bit from our original plan to go heavy, because who's
Just a capacity thing.
sales and delivery is
don't have enough
sitting in this
time.
room. Yeah.
Like,
So
humans only have enough time, right?
So like,
that's it. That's literally the only problem we have.
yeah. And getting like a good core base of
Yeah.
like regular customers coming in, making sure we're paying attention to that and that they're happy when they come in, and that we're, organically growing that space as well, just like for what people are asking for or looking for or whatever. We kind of switched to that. And I think in the next three months or so, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on sales out the door, wholesale cans and kegs.
Yeah.
But at first we just realized that we needed to focus on something, and the physical space was, the first part.
Yeah.
That was the lowest hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
Because you again, you make your best margin there. You're also getting people to come see us, meet us. We're pouring beers, and they want to talk to us about, oh, cool, like the owners are here. Let's talk to them about the process, and how do you figure out how to design this beer, and how do you do this, and your events. How do you pick your events, and all that stuff. That like it gets people in front of us to meet us, because it's us and like. And our employees are the company.
Yeah.
And that's how you build a good customer base. And not only that, like we're 3 months in and we're still having people come in and like they say, oh, we live 2 blocks away. And I'm like, how many people live 2 blocks away from our
There's a lot of 2 blocks away people.
Yeah, it's like infinite amount of people live 2 blocks away from our brewery. And it's like, well, okay, let's keep going. And we're at this point now where in the next month or so, our tap room will be in a good space where it's in the black, and we can concentrate finally on we're staffed up where we can concentrate on distribution. And then another thing we want to do if it's viable is like you always want to diversify what you're doing in a beverage industry, because like again COVID, like
right.
people that couldn't can and couldn't pivot were toast. And which is really unfortunate. We lost a lot of good breweries because of that. We want to make sure that we keep that, we can have good accounts out. And not only that, but then maybe some contract brewing. We have a large system. I have a lot of experience doing large batches, and we have a canner. And so maybe some of the small breweries that want to reach out to that.
Level. Yeah.
Or people that maybe that want to do beer from a branding perspective, but don't want to brew it, which is, there's a lot of people out there that are called like gypsy brewers, or like, like they want to design the beer and they want to market the beer. They want to brew the beer or package it. Hey, that's cool. That's what I do.
Yeah. You got obviously
I'm terrible at making names for beers.
Process and system.
I named a beer, turn that thing into a drink. Like,
yeah, that was his one. No.
I get one, and that's like I'm done with that.
I like it.
So you're not again, business plan from a expansion perspective in process.
Yeah.
But up to this point, couple of tips you'd have for anybody that's interested in entering into the brewing industry, or in general even starting a new business.
Well, you go first.
Well, my biggest thing is the learning from mistakes thing, because like being humble and figuring out what you don't know, asking for help when you need it, being okay with saying, okay, that didn't work, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to do something different, and keeping that flexibility, I think, is like the biggest thing, because like we can all make plans. We all have all these big plans. Barely anything goes to plan. And keeping an open mind and just like pivoting through all the issues, because there's inevitably, if you're doing things right and you're pushing the boundaries of like what you're capable of and what your business is capable of, you are going to make mistakes and you're going to run into problems. I'm not comfortable unless I'm in a semi-chaotic, like,
environment.
environment.
You have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
First of all, you definitely have to be okay with.
Yeah, and if we're just gliding, I feel like we're
Yeah.
not doing it right, you know?
Yeah.
So that would be my biggest lesson is embrace that chaos, pivot, learn from mistakes, and just like keep crushing forward. That's my approach. And
For sure.
We're both like that. So.
I did this. I talked about this over COVID, and when I was trying to get more money and all the stuff, is like we were basically building a car while we were trying to drive it down the highway to an appointment we're late for. Right. You don't have to do it that
visual.
way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like you don't have to do that. Like, first of all, we had to, because we had no choice.
Yeah.
Timing, and we had the lease and all this stuff. Like, definitely plan it. But also, like you said, learn how to fail right, you know, and have people around you that have failed that can help you with that. Get mentors. Get a great investor group if you're not bringing your own money to the game. Get a great investor group if you're doing SBA loans. Make sure you have a wonderful relationship with the bank and a lot of mentors. You cannot have too many mentors. Get a wonderful attorney, really good attorney. You have to. Like, business is full, especially the entrepreneurial crew and crowd. It's full of less than great people that are looking for themselves, and and you'll meet them. You always meet them. And sometimes you're lucky enough to not have them in your company, and sometimes you're not lucky enough to have them in your company. And you need a great attorney to figure that out. Having a really good plan of who's going to do what are you legally responsible for. You cannot spend enough money on that, from my perspective.
Great.
But like,
great advice.
and then I mean, obviously, again, like, you have to embrace the chaos. You don't have to live in chaos. You have to be, but you have to be okay with a little bit, because that's the whole point of being an entrepreneur. Is like, you're doing something, like I said, from zero to one. It's sometimes a nightmare, but like, it's worth it. Like, there's so much awesome that can come from it, and the people you meet and the people that you can either hire or work with or work for. So it's a great ride. And I don't know. I mean, anything I can offer, like, me personally. Sure, I've made lots of mistakes. I mean, I started a company in August of 2019. Come on, man. So, like, anybody listening to this, I'm available too. And I have a huge mentor group that's always available and helping out. And obviously Jenna as well. That's like, you need people like that. So
great feedback and a great offer.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the whole point.
So if I'm a beer drinker, where do I find you guys physically? Where's the brew pub located?
We're right under the Duquesne clock, the big clock, famous.
2120 Jane Street,
Yep.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15203. That'll get you to our parking lot. We have 2 entrances. Our hours are...
Yeah, what are the hours these days?
Oh, yeah. So we're Monday through Wednesday, 3 to 10, Thursday, Friday, 3 to 11, Saturday, 12 to 10, and Sunday, 12 to 6.
Oh, 7 days a week?
7 days a week. We
and
just made that choice about a month ago.
Yeah.
At first we started Wednesday through Saturday, and we were like, okay, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are like business days, brew days.
Right.
And then we just realized that we wanted to have a space that was consistent, so there was no thinking. When you're like, I want to go to Velum and have a beer, you can just go, and you know that we're open. So so far it's been really good. Obviously, it's a lot more work on our part because one of us has to be there all the time, and but it's been really worth it. People are coming in on Monday, and all 7 days a week. People are coming in, enjoying themselves, and
right.
Yeah.
So if people want to learn more about Velum, I'm assuming you active on social media
you can,
and website.
Yeah, you can find us most of everything up to date, and all the events and stuff is on Instagram and Facebook. At Velum Fermentation is our handle. And then we also have a website, www.velumfermentation.com. that's a little bit in the process,
Still being built.
Still being built, but
social media's
we're
got-
building. We're building that car while we're building too.
Yeah, Jenna runs the social media, runs the Instagram, and it's killer. She keeps it on point. Everyth's updated.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much
you.
for your insights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward here in the relatively near future, seeing some Velum product on the shelves in some different places.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what brand's going to be put out there first for people to identify with?
We're definitely going to put our 100% PA lager out because that's just something that I just love the concept of, is having a 100% PA grown product. But then, the hazies kill it. I want to put the porter out there because I just love, again, Black Butte Porter. I'm just such a fanboy of Deschutes. I'll never stop. But we'll do a little bit of everything and see what the market wants and see where do they want the 16 ounce? Do people want to go back to 12 ounce 6-packs?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, we'll see.
Maybe.
It's up to them, So
Excellent. Thank you for watching and listening to part 2 of our series on Velum fermentation. For those of you that have any questions about this episode or other episodes of Inside the Vault, or would like to suggest future topics, you can email us at insidethevault@enterprisebankpgh.com. And please be sure to check us out on all the major podcast platforms and in video format on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching and listening.